February 22nd, 1945. British patrol boat cuts through. Morning fog on the Burmese coast. Lieutenant Robert Duff scans the mangrove shoreline, searching for survivors. Then he sees him, a Japanese soldier, collapsed on the mud bank, uniform shredded, face covered in cuts, eyes empty. The soldier's lips move. He's trying to speak. Duff leans closer. 3 words in broken English. They took everyone? Behind him, the mangroves were silent. No birds, no insects, just the sound of water, and something massive moving beneath it. The soldier died 2 hours later. He never explained what they were. He didn't have to. That account you just heard, that's real. Lieutenant Duff's patrol report is in the British archives right now, and what he found in that swamp has been called the deadliest animal attack in recorded history. I'm Patrick, and welcome to Patrick's Arena, where I don't just tell you stories, I investigate them. If you're new here, this channel breaks down nature's most brutal encounters using real evidence, real biology, and zero Hollywood nonsense. Today we're diving into Ramree Island. February 1945, 1,000 Japanese soldiers retreated into a mangrove swamp to escape British forces. By morning, only 20 walked out. The Guinness Book of World Records called it a massacre. Modern historians call it a myth. And I'm about to show you the evidence that proves which one's right. But before we go further, if you love this kind of deep dive investigation, where we separate fact from legend, hit that subscribe button right now, because by the end of this video, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to haunt you, and I want to see your answer in the comments. All right, let's rewind to how this nightmare started. The trap closes. January 14th, 1945. British forces land on Ramree Island, 520 square miles of mud off the coast of Burma. Their mission? Simple. Capture the island, build an airbase, keep pushing the Japanese back toward Tokyo. But the Japanese weren't just going to hand it over. About 1,000 troops from the 121st Infantry Regiment had turned this island into a fortress. Bunkers, machine gun nests, booby traps everywhere. For 3 weeks, it was brutal urban warfare. The British lost dozens, the Japanese hundreds. By early February, the writing was on the wall. They were surrounded, outnumbered, and running out of ammunition. The impossible choice, February 7th. Colonel Nagasawa, the Japanese commander, gathered his remaining 900 men and laid out the options. Option 1, surrender to the British and spend the rest of the war in a prison camp. Option 2, march 10 miles through mangrove swamps to reach Japanese forces on the mainland. Now, if you know anything about the Imperial Japanese military code, you know surrender meant dishonor worse than death. So 900 exhausted, wounded soldiers chose the swamp. Quick question before we go further, and I want you to really think about this. Would you rather face a trained enemy with guns, or take your chances with whatever's lurking in a swamp you've never seen before? Drop your answer in the comments, because these soldiers were about to learn that sometimes the devil you don't know is way worse. The nightmare begins. Let me paint you a picture of what these men walked into. This wasn't a swamp like you're imagining. No solid ground, just endless black mud that sucked at your boots with every step. Mangrove roots twisted like clawed hands, sharp enough to slice through skin. The air, so thick with humidity you couldn't breathe. Mosquitoes swarming by the thousands, carrying malaria. No fresh water. Critical detail, remember this. Every water source was brackish, salty, undrinkable. And the heat? Over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body's sweating out water faster than you can replace it. These men were already wounded from 3 weeks of combat. They had maybe 2 days of rations left. They were walking into a death trap, even before the predators showed up. The predator. Now, before I tell you what happened that night, you need to understand what was waiting for them in that water. Because this isn't just a crocodile. This is the apex predator of Southeast Asia. Meet Crocodilus porosus, the saltwater crocodile, the largest living reptile on planet Earth. And guys, when I say large, I mean it. The monster specs. Males grow up to 20 feet long and weigh over 2,000 pounds. That's bigger than most cars, but size is just the start of this nightmare. The bite. Scientific studies measured saltwater croc bite force at 3,700 pounds per square inch. That's enough to crush a cow's skull in one bite. For comparison, a human bites at 160 psi. A lion? 150. This thing could snap your leg bone like a toothpick. The teeth. Between 60 and 70 conical teeth that regrow continuously like sharks. They don't chew, they grab, crush, and tear. The death roll. Once they latch onto prey, they spin their entire body like a corkscrew. This isn't to kill you, it's to rip chunks of flesh off because they can't chew. The real weapon. But here's what makes them true nightmare fuel. See these tiny black dots all over their jaws? Those are called integumentary sensory organs. They detect pressure changes in water from 50 yards away. Even in complete darkness, even if you're standing perfectly still, if your heart is beating and causing tiny vibrations in the water, they know exactly where you are. The Japanese soldiers were walking into an arena where the home team had night vision, motion sensors, and jaws that could crush steel. This wasn't a fair fight. This was a slaughter waiting to happen. Okay, real quick, if this story is already getting under your skin, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube that people actually want to hear true stories like this, and it helps us keep digging up these insane historical cases. Plus, I've got 3 more mind-blowing details coming up that are going to make you question everything you thought you knew about this story. All right, back to the nightmare. The night of horror, the eyewitness. So what actually happened on the night of February 19th, 1945? Our primary source is a man named Bruce Wright, the British soldier and naturalist who was on a patrol boat circling the swamp. 17 years later, in 1962, Wright published a book called Wildlife Sketches Near and Far, and what he wrote about that night has been debated by historians ever since. Let me read you his exact words. The scattered rifle shots in the pitch-black swamp punctured by the screams of wounded men crushed in the jaws of huge reptiles and the blurred, worrying sound of spinning. Crocodiles made a cacophony of hell that has rarely been duplicated on Earth. A cacophony of hell. Just think about that phrase for a second. According to Wright, the crocodiles, attracted by the smell of blood and the vibrations of hundreds of men slogging through water, converged on the swamp in massive numbers. Picture this, complete darkness, no moon, the tide rising, bringing the water level higher. You hear splashing nearby, someone screams. Rifle fire lights up the night for half a second, just long enough to see shapes in the water. Then darkness again. The soldiers couldn't run. The mud trapped them. They couldn't climb. Mangrove roots, too slippery and sharp. They couldn't even see what was attacking them until it was too late. The claim, Wright stated that of approximately 1,000 Japanese soldiers who entered that swamp, only about 20 were found alive by British patrols the next morning. If that's true, that means 980 men died in one night, and the Guinness Book of World Records listed it as the largest animal attack on humans in recorded history. But here's where the story gets complicated, because when modern historians started digging into the evidence, everything fell apart. The investigation. All right, it's time to separate legend from reality, because that story I just told you, the one that's been repeated in books and documentaries for 60 years, it has some serious problems. Red flag number 1, the math. Let's start with basic biology. To consume 980 human bodies in one night, maybe 10 hours of darkness, you would need thousands of crocodiles, all hunting in the same area. But saltwater crocs are territorial apex predators. They fight each other for hunting grounds. One mangrove ecosystem can't support that many top-level predators. There's not enough prey to sustain them. Think of it like this. Imagine your neighborhood suddenly had 50 McDonald's on the same block. Not enough customers to keep them all in business, right? Same principle. Nature doesn't work that way. Red flag 2, the timeline. Here's what historians discovered. Those soldiers weren't in the swamp for just one night. They were there for weeks, and most of them didn't die from crocodile attacks. They died from dehydration, no fresh water in a saltwater swamp, tropical diseases, malaria, dysentery destroying them from the inside. British artillery. The British were actively shelling the swamp, drowning. That tidal mud was like quicksand. Many were already injured from 3 weeks of fighting. Thirst alone can kill you in 3 days. In that heat, probably faster. Red flag 3, the witnesses. In the year 2000, a herpetologist named Stephen Platt traveled to Ramree Island and did something nobody had done before. He interviewed the locals who'd actually been there during the war. These were people the Japanese had forced into labor. They saw everything. And their testimony? They unanimously said the mass crocodile massacre story was false. They reported maybe 10 to 15 soldiers killed by crocodiles while crossing one specific creek. Not 980, 10 to 15. The final twist. And here's the kicker that changes everything. Bruce Wright, the guy who wrote that famous account, wasn't actually there during the battle. He arrived days later and heard secondhand stories from traumatized British soldiers. He saw crocodiles scavenging on bodies that were already dead. And in the chaos of war, secondhand stories became legend. So what's the truth? After reviewing British military archives, Japanese war records, local testimonies, and crocodile biology, here's my final verdict. The real numbers: 1,000 Japanese soldiers entered the swamp. Approximately 500 were killed by British forces in combat. Around 450 died from disease, dehydration, exposure, and drowning. An estimated 20 to 50 were killed by saltwater crocodiles. Only 20 survived to surrender. The hard truth: did crocodiles kill Japanese soldiers? Absolutely. If you're wounded and bleeding in water next to a 15-foot apex predator, you're part of the food chain. That's just biology. But the 1,000-man massacre in one night story, that's a legend built on the horror of war, second-hand accounts, and the very real terror those men experienced. The real lesson: the true massacre wasn't the crocodiles. It was the decision to march 1,000 exhausted, wounded soldiers through 10 miles of tidal swamp in enemy territory with no supplies, no water, and no escape plan. Nature didn't choose to kill those men. War did. The crocodiles were just doing what crocodiles do, being opportunistic predators in their own home. So here's the question I promised at the beginning, and I really want to hear your answer on this, knowing what you know now about the real story. Do you think Bruce Wright intentionally exaggerated, or did he genuinely believe what he wrote based on the chaos and horror he witnessed? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one, and the best answers get pinned. And here's the scarier one. If you were one of those soldiers, would you have chosen the swamp or faced capture? Because knowing the actual conditions, the heat, the disease, the lack of water, those crocodiles might have been the quickest death available. If this deep dive investigation got your blood pumping, hit that subscribe button, because next week we're analyzing the Champawat tigress. 436 confirmed, human kills by a single Bengal tiger, and the story behind why she hunted humans. That's the part that'll break your heart. Remember what I always say in Patrick's Arena: every legend has a truth buried inside it. You just have to dig deep enough to find it. I'm Patrick. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay out of the mangroves.